Well, many things are responsible for breaking this pay. As I said during the presentation, the agitation has always been very high for a decentralized minimum wage, to have a true federalism, because the center is overburdened. So people are advocating that some of these things in the exclusive list should be devolved to the states. Let the state assembly has a say. And exactly that's what we did. And secondly, we are talking of true federalism. The When there was strong call on the government, the present government, to implement Jonathan report on national confab. So the party, in its own wisdom, the APC, as a government, they now constituted a committee with 9 governors, many members of National Assembly, party faithfuls, and many others, to bring a position on restructuring and devolution of power. This report was submitted to the NEC of APC, which I'm a member, and it was ratified. Being a member of NEC and also a member of National Assembly, so it falls within my own jurisdiction to bring it to National Assembly, and that's what I did. And prescribing the national minimum wage falls within the competence of the National Assembly by virtue of Section 4, subsection 2, and subsection 3 of the Constitution as amended. So we are the only ones that are saddled with responsibility of prescribing national wage. And we said this national wage, minimum wage, whenever it's introduced, has always been controversial. The government, between the federal government and the state government and the local governments, if you look at the structure, even the 18% minimum wage that was earlier agreed, at the time the price of oil was over $100 per barrel, still most states cannot pay. Even when this the 30,000 was introduced as a minimum wage, the price of oil has gone down, which most of the states, their revenue has dwindled. At the initial stage, the federal government was giving some states a bailout to pay. But now there is no bailout and the state cannot pay. So what we are saying, in essence, there is no need to be having a law that is implementable, that you cannot implement. So what's the essence? And there is no consequences, no penalty for not implementing. And we said again, the federal government collects 52% of the national revenue, while the total of 36 states collects, I think, about 30% or less. The state government, the local government, about 774 local governments, and the derivation, oil producing state collect 13%. So you find out that their strength is not the same, the resources are not the same. The time it was increased to 18,000 as minimum wage, it only affected the federal government by just 1%, but it affected the state with about between 40 to 50% of their revenues. And again, apart from that disparity between the federal government and the state governments, even within the states, they don't collect, their revenues are not the same. State like Akwa Ibom, Bayelsa, what they will collect in a month, it will take about 6 to 7 months for states like Yobe, Zamfara, Taraba, Ebonyi, all these small states. It takes them about 6 months to get what that state will get in just 1 month. So, and again, we said there are local peculiarities. There are several socioeconomic indices that you look at. That is, for instance, the cost of living is not the same in Lagos, in Abuja, in Benue, in Ekiti, the cost of living is not the same. As Chief Afe Babalola argued, that that's the prominent legal luminary who is a son, and I'm happy that he even wrote a very powerful article in support of this bill. He said, what a worker can spend or will spend for rent in Abuja, that is between maybe 2 to 3 million naira per annum, in other places is enough to build a house by that worker. Cost of living for transportation in places like Lagos is not the same in other places. Cost of school fees, cost of feeding, and many other things. Even at the local government level, the local governments are not the same. They are not the same when it comes to their revenues. And you find out that once this thing is implemented, most of the states are not paying. I'm sure the time Kano State wanted to rationalize its workers for it to pay, the NLC has to go to Kano and negotiate. So what we are saying, we are not trying to shut up the NLC. NLC is their partners in progress. All of us are working for Nigeria. We are looking for a solution. How do we approach these things? It has always been a problem. So how do we approach it? NLC can negotiate with every state according to the resources, that is available to that state. They know it. There is nothing that is hidden in these days. They will know the revenue profile, the number of workers, and many other things. Then they can arrive on a practicable formula that is implementable. Not the ones that you do it, after some time, the whole states cannot implement, and nobody is saying anything. So we said they should. And another thing again is that the states, I think, is more even egalitarian when we allow the state assemblies to determine, because the budget of state assembly doesn't come to the National Assembly. They do it within the state. They know the strength of the state. They know what the state generates, what the state has, and they do budget for it. So it will be, I think, cumbersome for us to take their job, then to do it and tell them this is what we pay. While we're here, their budget is not under us. So they have their own budget. They are the ones who can determine. And I don't think there is any irresponsible government that when you are negotiating, you have to look at cost of living also. Which minimum wage will be will allow a worker to live a decent life. And this issue of minimum wage does not cut up states whose cost of living is very high to even raise their own, like in Lagos. The workers can agitate for at least minimum of, let's say, 100,000 or more. Lagos is a very rich state. Apart from very rich, the cost of living is extremely high, so you cannot compare it. So the workers will now have the leverage to negotiate based on what is on ground. You understand? So that's what and we said this practice in Nigeria has been on for when you look at the Republican Constitution and the Independent Constitution of 1963, the issue of minimum wage is domiciled in the concurrent list, not in the exclusive legislative list. Well, you see, whether governors want to do something that is sustainable. In other places, issue of minimum wage is a very serious issue. It's even a campaign issue. Even in the US, we can see that it has become a campaign issue. Because even in the US, you find out that out of the 50 states, 29 states pay higher than the federal civil servant. So that thing can be replicated in Nigeria. It depends on the strength, and it will even ginger up the state to now look for revenues. You understand? So well, to the like what is obtained here, now that the governors are not paying, in most of the local government, once they pay salary, they will not even have 1 million to construct, to do any other work. They cannot provide drugs in the hospital. They cannot rehabilitate schools. They cannot do anything. So they are in essence just they are in existence just to pay salary at the end of the day. That's all. That's their only work in most of the local governments which I know. So what we are saying is, it is through this negotiation, when you allow them to go and do it, they are the ones to come out. But for us to sit in Abuja and say that we'll make a uniform this thing, the state too, they have their own base and they will come with statistics. The labor will come with statistics. We know your revenue profile, we know what you are generating, we know the number of your staff. So even if you pay, you'll be able to do other works. They can come. This is an era where information is not difficult to obtain. You get this all, and you also, the labor will now come with, okay, look at the cost of living. How do we do? Even if it is in most instances, what is happening in the state is to say that, okay, we will implement, but we are going to downsize our workforce by 60%. We will restrain. And that's what is causing the problem. So how do you solve it? Truly, when you come, they cannot do it. How do you solve that issue? But when you negotiate, okay, don't retrench our workers. Let us see it. How are you going to? Based on the revenue, yes, we have seen your revenue. Now and before is not the same. What they are getting before, when the price of oil was 150 barrel per barrel, it's not the same what you have today. So how do you implement it when the money is not there? It's a campaign issue. We are in political. That's the beauty of democracy. Whenever there is election, make it a campaign issue. Whoever is contesting, Labour can now organize. We will support you, but tell us, what do you have for workers? What do you have for workers? You make a promise. The way Biden did, he promised workers that he's going to raise minimum wage from 10.5 cents, $10, 50 cents to $15. He made it a campaign issue, and he was voted based on that. So it can be replicated in Nigeria, in many states. Okay, we'll support you, we are workers. What do you have for us? If not, if you don't have anything for workers, we'll go against you. And you can even sign agreement. Or if they don't sign, yes, you can demonstrate, you can protest. That's what we are saying. But let us do, all of us are looking for ways. But the way it was presented, I think it's only 4 members who spoke against it. If you look at the contribution, more than 80% of people who made contribution were in support of this bill.
But were you surprised that the 4 were born like from the leadership of the House?
No, it's the deputy speaker is a member like any other member. We are 360. So his opinion is not the opinion of 360. It's the opinion of himself alone when it comes to debate. He's talking of his own opinion as a former Labour leader. If you look at the people that contributed are former Labour members. So he can only speak, he can only debate. Kuma being a leader does not confer a superior argument to any other member. He can only argue on his own, and other people have argued. They have argued strongly for. So it's not issue of, and the most annoying aspect, even the national president has written a letter to me.
Of which president?
NLC, Comrade Ayuba Waba. Okay. He wrote a letter to me, 5 pages letter. And in the letter, he was even saying that I should have come to Labour to sit with them before bringing that. I said, no, it's a misconception to think that I have to come to Labour. I'm a legislator of Federal Republic of Nigeria. I have that right to bring any bill or motion in the floor of the House. The only thing where Labour can come, there will always be public hearing. And at public hearing, you are at liberty to come and state your position. If you have a superior argument and convincing argument, you convince everybody. We are not rigid. We will agree with you. But if other interest group too that are for the bill, they come with a better argument than you. It's left for the House to decide. The thing has even gone beyond me. As you can see in the article, it was voted by the House, not by Hon Garba Datti. That's the essence. And and I told them that you are to come for public hearing, not to resort to smear campaign as they were doing in their platform of labor. I've seen a lot of smear campaign going on against me. But you cannot, in a country like Nigeria, where eminent people, legal luminaries, like Chief Afe Babalola, prominent papers like Punch, one of the leading newspapers in the country, and many other interest groups like the Director General of our Progressive Governors Forum, and many interest groups have come out powerfully to support this bill. So this is not a bill you can just wish it away by way of insult, by way of smear campaign, by way of intimidation, blackmail. No. Come, why are they? They should come for constructive engagement, not abuses.
Why do you think the organized labor is agitated? What do you think is?
You should find out from them that this is a bill. Why can't you come and argue it? And in everywhere, in every part of the world, if there is such issues, if you feel their interest is threatened, they lobby. Even in US, they have professional lobbies that will come and lobby. But you don't have to resort to blackmail, to smear campaign, to intimidation, to insult. It cannot solve any problem. We are all Nigerians. We are partners in progress. If they come, we can see it and look at this. How do you solve this? This teaching problem has been on for quite some time. How are we going to solve it? Well, as I told you, he has his own personal opinion. But his personal opinion cannot override the opinion. We have representatives from all the states. We have representatives from different interest groups in that committee. So we are practicing democracy. We are not in dictatorship. It's at that committee that issue will now be determined by members of the committee, but not by the deputy speaker as the chairman of that committee. It has to be determined by members. If in democracy, even myself, that day, if the majority has been against it, I can even, it's simple issue that I will go to speaker and say, okay, I will withdraw it for further legislative consultation. But when the majority were in support and it was voted, all of you were journalists, you see the contribution people made. So I think that that's not an issue. And while the public hearing will take place, all of you media will be there. It's not going to be a secret public hearing. You are the ones to judge. It will be before the court of public opinion also. People will be there. They will have we are not, the labor, apart from NLC, they have other affiliate bodies. They are free to come. Everybody, any stakeholder will come. All of us are looking for solution for our country. So the approaches may be different, but when they come, we understand each other. We are all comrades in this struggle. Nobody is against it, and nobody is trying to weaken the central labor. What we are saying, the central labor will exist. They can now negotiate on behalf of labor in each state. Like the way after every minimum wage, they will still have to go back to be negotiating with individual states. I cited the example of Kano, that they have to go still and negotiate. So they are used to this. Nobody is saying that labor is going to be good. Labor is going to be intact. But what we are saying, let them go and sit with the states and come out with a practicable and workable solution to this issue of minimum wage. That's all we're saying. Okay, thank you. What's that your name? Eric. This is exactly what we are saying. What's the essence of us sitting here making a law that cannot be obeyed at the state level, and there is no consequences, no penalty? What do you do to them? That's the question we're asking. And secondly, it's left for the NLC to go to that state and fight that governor. Okay, you are giving bailout to pay. You did not pay. What has happened to our money? It's left for them to do that and to see the other stakeholders in that state. We have seen it's not everything at state level that doesn't work. You cannot tell me that now state universities are not working. You cannot tell me that state judiciary are not working. They are working. Federal government universities are working. State universities are working. So it depends on, and I can tell you there are some state universities that are even better than federal universities today, in terms of excellence, in terms of many other things. So it depends on who is the governor. And when you are voting, that's the essence of democracy. You must know the type of people you vote for, who will now protect your interests. If you know somebody with that type of character, then you don't have to vote for him. Somebody that even your own right will not give you. That's the only consequences that can come after that. But what in essence we are saying is, now we have been making laws on minimum wage. States are not implementing. What do you do? And there is no law. They cannot be penalized for anything. So what's the essence of doing the law? Why not devolve it? And we are not the ones that are approving their budgets. They are the state assembly. They know the strength of each state. It's the state assembly that makes their budget because they know what is coming in. They project based on the budget, based on the revenue expectation. You can.
Price control system.
We cannot have price control system. We had it in the past, but it's not workable. The economy differs. In simple economies, is the law of demand and supply. It's what you have. It depends on not the issue of minimum wage, because most of the people that buy and sell that they are taking, they don't operate even within the formal sector. They are informal sector. And Nigeria don't have control over the volatility of price of oil. We don't have control globally. You understand? So there are things that are very global that Nigeria doesn't have control over it. When it comes, then how do you adjust? The most important thing to me is productivity. How do you increase our own productivity in Nigeria? How do you stop importing all this rubbish, most of the things we are importing? With a population of 200 million, with a vast area of land, with insufficient rainfall, with large number of people, how can we be importing food in this country? How can we be empowering farmers in Thailand, in Vietnam, in farmers around the Irrawaddy Delta, in Southeast Asia? You are empowering them, then they will bring rice to us. We cannot produce with our population. And so even our clothing, everything we import. The pressure will be too much. We should be productive. All the industries that have died, which policy are we introducing to revive them so that our children, our brothers will have to work in private sector, in industries, in manufacturing sector, in many sectors. These are what makes country, not a civil servant country that everybody want to work only in a federal civil service. What is happening to the industrial area in Lekweju in Lagos? What is happening to industrial areas in Aba, Kano, Kaduna, Port Harcourt, and many others? How do you revive our industry? These are areas that can employ large number of people. If you have such private investors that come and invest, it's based on productivity, based on what you find out that the private sector even pays higher because they produce and they get, like, I'm sure the Dangotes are not paying the minimum wage. I'm sure they are paying more than that because they are private sector. They are producing something for people to buy. So I think what the state should do is how to enhance their own revenue generating capacity. And we should also change our attitudes. If your governor is wasteful, then it's left for you to fight him. We don't agree with this, we don't agree with that. When it comes, we campaign against them. There are things that, yes, they are wasteful, you can bring it out. But what we are in now, we said even some states, that 18,000, they cannot pay it. Even if they pay, they have to retrench most of their workers. So how? We must find a balance between these two, between the revenue available to you and what you have to pay. You have to strike a balance. Like as I told you, like local governments in my state, I know. I think only about 3 or 4 local governments are paying this minimum wage of 30,000, that they can do some meaningful small projects. Now that they cannot even do anything, I think they are reverting back to 18,000. The 30,000 is not sustainable again. The revenue is dwindling. Mm-hmm. So we should try. It's only in Nigeria that everybody wants to rely on government work. We should diversify so that we should be productive.
Thank you so much.